So on the weekend, we had the terrible, disgusting attacks in Bondi, where innocent people going to celebrate part of their faith are killed in cold-blooded murder. The Australian government condemns violence in Bondi, yet at the same time, they're funding the Grand Mufti who declared jihad against Israel. So how can both be true? My name is Jay Fallon. Thanks for listening to The Slippery Slope.
Got my eyes straight ahead, got my head in the game. With the red light on, I'm just waiting for the change. Get my head down low.
So today we've got to look at representation within our nation, accountability, and manipulation. Let's look at this figure within the Islamic community in Australia. Got to look at Dr. Ibrahim Abu Mohammed. He's the Grand Mufti of Australia. He is the spiritual leader of the Australian Muslims and the head of the Australian National Imams Council. Probably never really heard of ANIC, but he is the head, the Grand Mufti. He made this controversial statement a while back. He said, "We call upon Muslims everywhere to rise for jihad against Israel." So while jihad can mean struggle in Islamic theology, in this context, it was widely interpreted as a call to violent resistance. So ask yourself this. What do you think happens when the nation's top Islamic leader makes a statement like, "We call upon Muslims everywhere to rise for jihad against Israel"? What do you think happens? I think what happens is someone who already hates the Jewish people, hates the nation of Israel, they can feel completely justified to take weapons, set up on a perch, and kill, murder innocent people. Completely justified. The top religious leader in our nation has called for jihad against Israel. So I don't have to feel any guilt. I shouldn't feel any guilt. I am justified in the murder of innocent people, celebrating their faith. The other question that the reason why I wanted to talk about this, is because the government comes out and says, we condemn violence, and yet the government has funded this organisation led by this Grand Mufti. So you've got the government has funded the ANIC to the tune of, I believe it's over $27 million has been allocated to the ANIC over the last couple of years. And it's awarded this funding through a closed, non-competitive grant process. So parliamentary and budget references confirm the allocation under the Social Cohesion and Community Resilience Program. And then there's also an additional 1.1 million, which came about in January of 2024, for supporting communities affected by the Israel-Palestine conflict. So a conflict's going on over in Israel, and we're giving people here $1.1 million to support them. Go figure. So this hasn't also sat well with other Islamic groups. For instance, the AFIC has also stated that the government cannot decide who represents us, as in Muslims. By awarding $24 million to the ANIC, the government is attempting to handpick our leadership, so to handpick the Muslim leadership of Australia, which seems exactly what they're trying to do, like what they're trying to do. But, this is the other issue here is the contradiction with the ANIC, led by this Grand Mufti, declares jihad. They are now the largest federally funded Islamic body in Australia. So is the funding about community resilience, or is it about control? The government perhaps trying to control who speaks for Muslims in Australia. So Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said on the weekend that his statement was, the attacks in Bondi are abhorrent and violence has no place in our society. Well, when you think about this, contrast that. Violence has no place in our society. These attacks are abhorrent. And you contrast that with the government financial support to the ANIC. This highlights the hypocrisy. You condemn violence publicly, but you fund an organisation led by a figure whose rhetoric invokes jihad. So the contradiction is that the government condemns violence in Bondi, yet parliamentary records show it awarded the ANIC $27 million. The ANIC is a council led by the Grand Mufti who declares jihad against Israel. And then our government, not just Albanese, lots of other government leaders come out and they feign surprise when we see this violence spilling out on our streets. How can this happen? We condemn the violence. This is not the Australian way. This shouldn't be happening in our nation. Yet when the Grand Mufti declares jihad against Israel, we shouldn't be surprised when people feel justified, feel that it is perfectly within their rights, not just within their rights, that they will be celebrated to kill, to murder innocent people trying to celebrate their own faith out on the beach in Bondi. We can't then, I shouldn't say we can't, our politicians are just nothing but hypocrites. You condemn the violence, you're surprised, you feign surprise at the violence that happens in Australia, and yet you're funding people who want violence, who declare that they want the annihilation of the state of Israel. And because they want the death of Jews, they want the annihilation, the total decimation of the state of Israel, people then feel justified to kill Jewish people who are living here in Australia. They don't see anything wrong with that. And that's because their leadership has declared jihad. Their leadership does not believe that there is anything wrong, anything you can justify it, because it's killing Jewish people, it's killing people connected to Israel. They don't see it as doing anything wrong. It's all justified in their mind, and our Australian government is supporting these people and at the same time condemning violence when it happens on our streets. But this is what happens when you have politicians with no discernment, and all they care about is the next election cycle, and they don't really care about Australian history, and they definitely do not care about this nation and being founded on Judeo-Christian principles and beliefs. All they care about is their own selfish ambition and their own hunger for power. This is all my opinion. Please let me know what you think. I think it's very interesting that we can have this kind of money being funneled into groups. And I don't believe someone like this Imam should even be living in Australia. Anyway, this is all my opinion. Let me know what you think. I'm Jay Fallon. Thanks for listening to The Slippery Slope.
Got my eyes straight ahead, got my head in the game. With the red light on, I'm just waiting for the change. Got my head down low.